platformer mode. You heard that right. I'm finally making another platformer video. I've always wanted to see if I can challenge myself with platformer mode, but with how much has changed ever since it came out, everything feels impossible. But I digress. There are things I would love to attempt for platformer and see if they would be an interesting idea to share. And I think for this specific video, it worked out pretty well. Now, for anyone that isn't aware, the demons of each difficulty has been a pretty big idea for lots of creative challenges. Shoutouts to Aeonair and EVW for carrying this whole thing. There's been the shortest demons of each difficulty. We have specific themes for each demon difficulty. The possibilities are endless. But the one that sticks out to me, and personally I think it would be so cool to attempt trying, that would be the hardest demons of each difficulty. Okay, maybe not the hardest, since that would not be physically doable on many levels. But mainly what I'm trying to say is the most challenging demons of each difficulty, while being realistically possible with enough effort. So to start off simple, I decided to attempt the top 10 platformers for each demon difficulty, just to see if I can actually do any of them. And believe it or not, I actually pulled it off. Hello everyone. In this video, I will be showing my completions and going over every demon of each difficulty, top 10 platformer edition. It's something I wanted to do for a long while, but of course, it's difficult to figure out what the hardest, easier demons are. And even though there's like 600 platformer demons, not every single one has been ranked into difficulty, so it's really hard to say how we're going to find them. And that's why I wrote a few rules and a couple things to note on what I'm going to be showing off in this video. First off, I'm going to be showing more than one level for the easier demons. Because platform mode has so much variety, with there being multiple game modes and so many gimmicks that people use, it's really hard to judge what people find the hardest, and it's different for everyone. So to keep it a little fair and to actually figure out what people will find harder, I will be showing more than one level for the easier ones. And you might think that finding the hardest easy demons would be pretty difficult, since most of them are around the same difficulty anyways, and especially for the ones that are obviously harder than the others. But there is a way to actually judge them, and it depends on if you do it or not, and this would actually make a lot more sense, so then there could actually be a ranking on what the hardest demons are for the easier side. And that would be the coins. Sometimes they're just normal collectibles like every level should be, but eventually we have got to the point where the coins really push the boundaries of difficulty, and since they don't count the actual difficulty of the level for some reason, the coins are just there to make everything much harder if you want to 100% complete the level. But sometimes they can add a really good challenge if it's done properly. Another thing that I want to add is that mini games are not going to count. One of the reasons why is because mini games aren't actual Geometry Dash levels. They are literally called mini games for a reason, and it's not really possible to actually rank Geometry Dash platformers to broken mini games that don't work half the time. You're basically learning a new game in an already existing game. And not only that, if I did include platformer mini games, I would just probably be putting them at the very top. I feel like every single platformer mini game would just be harder than the actual levels in general, and that would just not be fun. So because of that, it would just be way better to not include mini games and only pick levels that have Geometry Dash physics and act like a Geometry Dash platformer. And one last thing that I want to share, most of the levels that you're going to see in this video are most definitely going to be outdated. And that's because people are still pushing the boundaries of platformer as I'm talking right now. There are so many insane creations that came out. There are so many new rising players for platformer. And there's even more harder platformer levels getting verified. And it's pretty exciting to see what people are going to be pushing for the future. Who knows what the hardest platformer levels are going to be now once we get to a point where many people can be way harder platformers than the former hardest platformer. There's a lot of things that can happen, but of course I don't want this to take away on what I did, because you gotta understand, this was really hard. This was such a daunting task to actually do finding levels that I would actually sit down and play them for long periods of time, it was not easy. And now, who knows if there's even a chance that I would have done it if I didn't complete it months ago. So if anyone is actually interested in trying this challenge, now is definitely the perfect time. And I'm really curious if someone would actually still do this challenge if it was much harder than before. With that being said though, let's get started on the top 10 demon platformers of each difficulty. I know this platformer probably isn't that close to the top of the list anymore, but it was at the time, so I'm going to mention it anyways. And this is actually an amazing level. The platformer in question is Toggle, a room-based platformer that's filled with puzzle elements while being pretty simple. And the level gives some pretty clear information about what this has in store. It probably takes around 15 minutes for the average completion, but if there's a reason why this level was on the list, it would be because of the coins. The first coin is just collecting all the gold scattered through all the rooms. They're all visible, so it's pretty hard to miss one. The other coin is present with activating challenge mode in the options. The main gimmick is to give you a clear condition to make the rooms harder and more puzzly. Sometimes you do one clear condition, and other times you do two. It does get a lot harder near the end, but it's such a fun, unique idea that I didn't completely mind if some of the challenges were way too hard. That's what makes it a real challenge mode, and one that has amazing gameplay elements. Oh my gosh. I obviously didn't practice the challenge mode, so it took a bit more time to understand some of the rooms, but I still had lots of fun learning and understanding the concept of Toggle. I would highly suggest giving it a try for yourself, and especially getting all the coins. And for the other platformer, we have a level called Make Me Fail. It's a silly troll level where this cube at the top has a button to completely change the level in a way to, well, troll you. It's very obvious what to do after understanding all of the trolls, but there are some that are really stupid. There is a coin though, but where is it? Let's try looking around in the beginning. Okay, there's some invisible platforms I can climb on. Once you enter, you cannot go back. Are you sure? I wonder what this entails. Oh no! It's an extreme demon platformer room? Please tell me there's no purpose in doing any of... Oh look. There's the coin. Yep, you have to pass this extremely hard room just to grab a coin. As for the room itself, it's not meant to be good. I don't know if it is, honestly. But there's only one positive thing I'll say about it. It does get very consistent after lots of practice. Yeah, there are a couple of noticeable choke points, but the main difficulty is in the beginning. For a short extreme platformer room, I'll take it. This still wasn't remotely fun for how boring the first half is, and there were so many fails in the robot section. But after only a few hours of playing, I finally passed it.
Oh! Wow!
Wow, what a coin. Once you grab it, you spawn right back to where you normally would, and you just have to beat the level like normal. But man, that was an awful coin. I obviously found this as the hardest easy demon, but the coin route is really short, so they're pretty close in difficulty. Whatever you find harder, it's just up to you. But with that done, let's move on with the medium demons. Our first medium demon platformer will be High Score. This is a coin collecting platformer where you have to collect as many coins as you can while reaching the minimum requirement to beat the level. However, if you notice how broken the checkpoints are, that's because they have large hitboxes to make the actual gimmick for this level. You only get one try for every section. If you fail, you move on to the next room, whether you got no coins, some coins, or the highest amount of coins. And if you didn't reach the minimum requirement, you have to start all the way over from the very beginning. There's not that many coins once you notice how many there are in the level, and for knowing the fact that there are real coins you can collect if you grab more than the minimum coin requirement to beat the level. It's pretty much high risk, high reward, but there are moments where taking an easier route for a small amount is better than getting nothing. This is still a really creative idea though. I really like this. I can't imagine getting all the coins in one run though, but thank goodness you don't have to do that. Our last medium demon will be Dash Tech. If the name doesn't give away what the gimmick of this platformer is, I have no idea what to tell you. But this is a colleague gameplay style level. Yes, I will try to finish the colleague platformer video, I promise. Give me time. But this style of gameplay was really popular that loads of people started making their own. This one was okay for a normal Dash Orb level, but this level also has a coin. So... Wait, what? This level got updated? Yeah, unfortunately this level got an update to add another coin. I hate reading that out loud. And it had to be an absurd one. Of course! At the very beginning there's a switch that says the perfect run. I feel like you would be able to understand that even if you can't read the whole word. And what this does is remove every checkpoint in the level, and you only have 60 seconds to complete it. I mean, doesn't sound unreasonable, just have to practice getting really... Wait, the level's longer than 60 seconds, and the level's trying to force me in a specific path. Where do you go? So what you have to do in the perfect run is to take really absurd skips by doing very specific dash or timings. It generally looks like you're not supposed to pull these off, but you have to. Trying to learn this is very unclear and makes it super unenjoyable to play. But besides the skips, the level itself is still really consistent. And thankfully the skips that you do saves almost 2 seconds for the timer. So one sloppy mistake won't ruin your run. And if you're curious, this is the run I got. Honestly. I think that's it, right? Yeah, okay. Now for the original coin. It's in this specific checkpoint and all you do is force stop to land on the ceiling and yeah, that's it. I don't really want to acknowledge how long this took, but this was really annoying, and that is all I'm going to say. Now we're moving on with the hard demons. First up is Orb Dancer, a platformer that's piled with orbs and pads. This is technically an open world level since there is a lot to explore, but the main idea behind the level is that there are orbs and pads locked behind a shop. and the only way to unlock every orb is by doing these trials that are scattered throughout the level. It tells you a specific orb combo that you have to do with a limited amount of time. Once you complete it, you'll be rewarded with a particle currency. I have no idea what that is. But you can use it to buy orbs and some other useful items to make the playing experience better. Obviously, the more orbs you buy, the more you can unlock extra trials for even more particles, which is very needed because there is a coin, once again, and you can buy it in the shop, but it's worth 30 particles. And I will say, a good chunk of the trials are really difficult since some of them require you to go outside the area where you activated the timer. But you do get more particles the harder the challenges are. Normally people would use some of the fast transportation items, but that would require to do really hard trials that would probably be unfun to learn. So all I did was grind enough currency for the coin and to unlock every orb and pad since that's required to beat the level. Once you're done buying everything, the orbs and pads will activate the final 3 trials. They're not really hard, but they can be annoying. The second trial was by far the most frustrating one, since you have to get lucky with the orbs and pads getting into your way just to find toggle orbs, and they're all in the same place. Anyways, once you completed the 3 final trials, the level pretty much ends. It's a really cool conclusion once you finish everything. Doesn't this look amazing? It generally looks so cool. So yeah, pretty much a very enduring platformer since there's no spikes in the level, but it's incredibly long and you're not meant to practice it either. That's why I spent an hour on this. Still a pretty cool level overall. Oh no, the army ants is back. Well, welcome to Tower of Hell. This is a tower climbing level where you have to climb up multiple block areas and you don't get a single checkpoint. What makes this level hard is that you only have 220 seconds to reach the top. And one thing that you'll notice, every area is randomized, meaning that no matter what you get, it's always going to be something different. And you have to pass whatever hard area you get with no checkpoints. Yes, it gets harder as you progress. And there's a chance you can get an extreme demon block area. And there are so many difficult areas that are pretty bad, they can just ruin the whole attempt. But you might be asking, where's the coin? It's actually in the very beginning. Here's how you get it. Yep, you get a 1% chance of getting an extreme demon block area called Luck of the Draw. And you have to do that one area and also continue the level without a checkpoint. And you have to start all the way over if you fail at any points. This was obviously not fun in the slightest. Constantly restarting the level just to get an impossible room, that's insane. And it makes every fail frustrating once you get the coin room. All you can do is hope for a block area that you're confident with. Otherwise, the luck aspect will just get to you. This honestly could have been a decent platformer, but the coin definitely made everything about the random trigger worse. Like, even the timer isn't worrying. Most of the time, you're going at a fast pace anyways. You can see how much time I had left at the end. Oh, yeah, and the things for playing area, that's randomized too. Which honestly isn't that bad, but there is one that requires you to do this. So, just be aware of that if you choose to play this. I honestly wouldn't recommend it. Especially if you don't like RNG that changes the whole difficulty of the level. For the Insane Demons, I'll be showing 3 instead of 2. The reason why is because the platformer demon list actually ranks the harder Insane Demons since there are less than 100 platformer extremes as I'm making this video. But obviously I have a different opinion of what I think the hardest Insane Demon was for me. While there are others I completed that can be harder for other players, I think it's fair that I show all 3. First one I want to share is Final Impact. It's pretty much a 2D adventure type of level. There's a few zones you have to clear and you only get 1 checkpoint per zone. And these zones are really long, but very difficult. One of the things that makes this platformer annoying is the double jump mechanic. You play as a cube throughout the entire level, and of course there are really high jumps you can't reach without the double jump. But it feels weird that your cube stops in motion when you use the double jump. It doesn't act like an orb. It's just a bigger jump than your normal regular jump. I really don't want to know how this works because I'm sure it's complicated, especially when it can break sometimes. But besides that, this took a lot longer than I expected. I spent around 20 minutes for every zone, besides the very first one. I think I practiced them too. It's just that the zones are super long that if you fail really far in, you have to start from the beginning again. I will say that this was probably my third or maybe fourth hardest platformer at the time, now knowing how difficult this level is. There's no time machine for the platformer list, so I can't figure out how hard this was when I completed it, but I clearly improved since Final Impact, that's for sure. It's probably not that bad if I tried playing again. At the time it was rough, but I would still recommend giving it a try. The next Insane Demon is a speedrunning platformer called Decaying Silo. Apparently this is based on a map from Flood Escape 2, which definitely explains the theme of the entire level. You have to play perfectly while the lava keeps rising at a very fast pace. Thankfully there's a practice feature so you can learn the actual gameplay, and to understand how fast you need to go. There's really nothing else I have to say, it's generally an amazing level. Actually, never mind. There is one thing I want to say. The code thing at the end, I did not like that whatsoever. You're literally guessing if a button stays on or not, and you don't get to know until the square turns green, which shows if you're correct. That's literally a whole minute and a half just for a chance to fail at a randomized code. It's really unfortunate how the level concludes, but still, everything else is amazing once you learn it all. I would definitely try this if you want to get better at platformers with no checkpoints and for being reasonably fast, but just be aware of the code thing. The third and final Insane Demon I'm going to show is personally what I think the hardest Insane Demon was for me. Mountainous Climb is another adventure type of level, kind of like Final Impact, but with all the checkpoints being incredibly short. However, this level has a gimmick I haven't even mentioned at all, and why I think it impacts the difficulty so much. This level uses the advantage of slope boosting, and I guess slope jumping. I think both of those terms are the same thing. Anyways, it's a weird tech in the game where if you hold the direction while riding the slope, you'll be able to jump. It's kinda hard to explain, but when you're able to jump while holding the specific direction for the slope, you can move into the opposite direction without the slope pushing you like it normally would. It's by far the most complicated tech in platformer, and not many people can do it consistently. I've gotten a bit better at slope jumping, but it's still the most awkward thing when you're doing it. And this level is full of slope jumping. The actual slope boosting, like an actual slope boost, that one's not that bad. You just ride the slope while holding direction to gain full speed and do really long jumps. Yeah. This is the most slope carried platformer for this list, and I found this way harder than the other Insane Demons. It was originally an extreme for a little while, but then it got demoted into insane. I could see why, since the level is really unbalanced. Mainly the second checkpoint, that is by far the hardest part of the whole level. Maybe in the fourth checkpoint, but everything else is like hard demon or even medium demon gameplay. Okay, maybe just the final checkpoint. I found that really easy. But I think this is definitely harder than Decaying Silo, and maybe slightly harder than Final Impact. I would only recommend this level if you want to try to get better at slow boosting, and this one does a decent job gameplay wise, but it's still slow boosting and it's not the most satisfying thing to do, if I'm completely honest. It's just way too inconsistent. Still some fun gameplay overall, besides the rotating dash orbs, oh my god. Anyways, let's move on. And here we are. Obviously I did one platformer for the extreme category because that's the highest difficulty. Meaning that this is an actual top 10 demon platformer I completed. And of course, my first ever top 10 platformer was Dead of Night. This was by far the most effort I spent practicing any level in this game, and for a good reason. Dead of Night is the biggest platformer project in Geometry Dash. The whole entire level is over an hour long, and that's just the gameplay. There is nothing but extreme demon gameplay. This platformer was in the works since the release of 2.2. It was aimed to be the hardest platformer in the whole game, and after a whole year, it was finished. During that time, there were a bunch of levels that were easily harder than Dead of Night, but that didn't matter. They still kept the difficulty, while even buffing some parts just to make sure that everyone understands this is 70 minutes of raw extreme demon gameplay. Once I understood what I was getting myself into, I started practicing the whole thing. By that I mean the practice feature in the main menu. You can't really practice the whole level. And yeah, I did everything. I practiced every section I was allowed to practice, and I made sure to have enough confidence with the hardest rooms that I would have to face from the beginning. This was no joke. It would be my longest platformer completion by a long shot. But on May 8th, 2025, I would actually do it. So many hours put into this one platformer, and I was able to 100% complete it. Wow. I didn't think I would be able to do this specific Demons of each difficulty video for a long time, but thankfully, there was something I believed I could have completed if I put all my efforts to it. I completed Dead of Night when it was the 8th hardest platformer. I'll take it. I obviously don't know how hard it is when I beat it. I really can't compare the difficulty of platformer levels, but this was really hard for me. Like, this is generally one of the most enduring things you could put yourself into. I'm not really sure if I'm going to do something harder. I don't know if I'm even going to attempt a top 5 platformer, but I'm not really worried about that right now. The point is, I achieved what I wanted to do, and that was to be a top 10 platformer. Especially the other demons, since there was a possibility for me to actually do this video, and here it is. Now, I obviously didn't show or shared much of Dead of Night for this video, and there's a reason for that. I kind of want to share everything about it. Because this is one of the biggest projects to ever release for the game, I genuinely want to show the entire level. So, in the future, I will be making a Dead of Night series with multiple parts so I can explain my entire experience as a whole, give my thoughts on every individual chapter and section for each chapter. I think it would make the whole level exciting to watch, and so everyone can have an idea of what this has to offer. It'll definitely take a long while for me to make every video for Dead of Night, but I think it will be pretty fun once it's finished. Needless to say, that's all the platformers. I definitely spent way longer on this than I should have, but I hope this turned out well, and I really hope you enjoyed. Okay, I know I keep saying this one word and I'm about to say it again, but just one more time. Hopefully. This will help me improve my commentary, since there's going to be more videos like this in the future where I want to give my thoughts when I have the opportunity to. But anyways, if you enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe so you won't miss any upcoming videos, and I'll see you all next time. Take care, everyone.